Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of This Week in Fantasy. I'm your host, Elia Hassan, and I'm here with Clayton Hoford and Tarian Rogers. This show is brought to you by Grand Lighthouse Coffee. Make sure you use promo code EastWest to get 10% off your order. So even though our team is a little bit small today, we're back giving you the best fantasy football advice out there. So we're going into week 11. Before we start, I just want to ask you guys, did you see Justin Herbert's new haircut, and tell me what you think about it.
That's a Clayton question because we know he loves his acting.
Big Justin Herbert fan over here.
Okay, so my guy had this fresh flow. He was looking like Sunshine from Remember the Titans, and now he looks like Sid from Toy Story. Like,
bro,
what did you do?
He looks like Matt logo.
What do you say? He looks like who?
He looks like the Mad TV logo.
Oh my god. Yeah, he definitely I don't know, like I kind of like the look, like the new look.
Y'all remember Chucky from Rugrats? If he went blonde and all grown up, that would have been Justin Herbert.
All right, so let's get into
man.
Segment. All right, let's do the first segment. Who were your top performing fantasy players of the week? Clayton, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara, the Saints running back. The guy just continues to be fantastic with the ball in his hands. You don't know how he's going to do it, but he just pumps out fantasy points. He went into halftime with a little under 20 with one net rushing yard. That's incredible. Alvin Kamara just continues to be an absolute steal for people who he fell to in the draft. This is a guy that went pick 4, 5, and 6 because people were scared of the injury from last year. So people that took Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Christian McCaffrey ahead of him are being rewarded for taking the risk on him. So Alvin Kamara for me.
All right. And then Tarian, what about you?
Yeah, Clayton, you're not going to like my answer, but I'm going really, really Raider heavy this episode. I know you're my Bronco guy, but I got to show love to Josh Jacobs. I got to show love to Josh Jacobs and the Raiders defense, man. Josh Jacobs had 27 fantasy points, so 21 carries, 112 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You know, a funny stat about Josh Jacobs, he's only played 22 games in his career, and he has 15 touchdowns. So the guy has a nose for end zone, and I'm gonna show a little bit of love to that Raiders defense as well. They led fantasy and defense this past weekend. And the funny thing about the Raiders defense, before Sunday's game, they only had 5 turnovers. This game alone, they had 5 turnovers, right? But in typical Raiders fashion, you know, they look great on defense, and then this week they got caught with COVID. So now they're on the COVID watch list.
How much?
So
like 5, 7, 9, like a crazy amount of
Eight of their starters are on the COVID watch list. So you do well, you have your best game ever, and then you catch COVID, right? Isn't that how 2020 has gone for everyone, right? So
yeah, right. So move on to the next segment, which is who are your most disappointing players of the week?
So to what Tarian said, I'm happy that the Raiders actually played so well. That sounds surprising, and they didn't get COVID because it would look even more embarrassing if Drew Lock had 4 turnovers against the backup Raiders. So I'm glad it was at least against the starters that he underperformed. But for my disappointment of the week, we went with the Saints running back. I'm going to have to go with the Saints star wide receiver, Michael Thomas. He had 1 catch. Actually, I think he finished the game with 2, but that's just that's unacceptable for a guy that was drafted in the first round and finally healthy. I mean, if your team managed to survive his absence, like I said, anytime you lose a guy you spent first round draft pick capital on, it's tough to recover from. So if teams manage to survive him, they're like, yes, we got Michael back. We're gonna have a good week. He's got a choice matchup against a Niners team with no shout out Ned, no secondary players, right? And he didn't perform. Obviously, that is in part because of the Drew Brees injury, but still yet very disappointing.
Yeah, okay. Do you think it has to do, with his injury? Like, do you think, like, do you believe that he was just having a bad game. I mean, this is the second game, right? Second game that he's been back in.
Yeah, I think that him being away from the offense for so long they found a way to win the games without him, right? Without funneling the ball through him. And part of that was Alvin Kamara. So I think as time goes on, you will see him get the ball more. But right now, it's not a focal point. It wasn't Devontae Adams coming back to the Packers where they're like, oh my God, we have nobody else to get the ball to. They have Alvin Kamara. They have Taysom Hill. They have Emmanuel Sanders. So it wasn't a pressing need that they had to force feed Michael Thomas the ball. I think it was more that than somebody should say, oh no, Michael Thomas is a bust. Because I don't think that's the case.
All right. We actually just got a question from Reed Getler. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It says, McLaurin or Calvin Ridley to start?
So in my mind, why did I read McLovin? That's neither here nor there, but
okay.
But speaking of McLovin, I think for me, I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards Calvin Ridley this week. I think that the Falcons, they've been on a winning streak as of lately, and Matt Ryan has really found his groove. They have a pretty winnable matchup. So typically when I get these questions asked to me, I kind of look at the matchups, this week and see, who has the better matchup. And I look at Calvin Ridley, and the Falcons, they have an easier matchup, this coming week. I think it's against I want to say that's not the Panthers. Who do the Falcons play this week? I know it's a team with a very, not a great secondary. So I would definitely lean a little bit towards Ridley just because of the matchup.
Okay. And who was your disappointment of the week?
Oh, my disappointment of the week. Yeah. My disappointment of the week was definitely to kind of piggyback off of Clayton's answer was Drew Brees, and I think a lot of Michael Thomas's struggles had to do with Drew Brees being hurt. Now, you can't really judge injuries. Injuries are always tough. And he had a broken rib, and he's out for the foreseeable future. Now famous Jameis gets in, and he gets to maybe throw some interceptions and or throw some touchdowns for however Jameis is feeling that day, but. I think a lot of people went into the game wanting to start Drew Brees just based off the simple fact that Aaron Rodgers had such an amazing performance against that 49ers defense, and Drew Brees was also coming off that great Tampa game. So you started him with confidence thinking that he would replicate a lot of the success that Rodgers did, and he got hurt, and he only put up 6 points, and he tried to gut through the injury as much as he could. I think he came in and I think he threw a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, and then he was taken out. But yeah, as far as Drew Brees is concerned, losing him for the next couple weeks or a month or however long he's gone, that's a huge loss for a lot of people.
All right, we're going to move on to the third segment, which is the waiver wire pickups. So who are you picking up off the waiver wire this week, Clayton?
I'm going to go with a guy that's still not owned just because of the scary situation he's in with the three backs that he's sharing with. So shout out to your Colts, Ilya. I like Nyheim Hines. He's proving that he's the most explosive player in the backfield between him, Jonathan Taylor, and Jordan Wilkins. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor, the highly touted rookie coming out right of Wisconsin. But he's shown a liability to put the ball on the ground. For some reason, Frank Wright isn't giving him a ton of touches inside the goal line, and he's not featuring him in the passing game. Meanwhile, Nyheim Hines is a favorite for Phillip Rivers. So Nyheim Hines, with the injuries we've seen to running back, with Joe Mixon, Miles Sanders is coming back tentatively. David Johnson's out now. Obviously, we know about Saquon Barkley and Zeke. The list goes on, right? I think Nyheim Hines is a guy that you could plug in there and feel comfortable with just with receiving value alone, a very good floor.
All right, Tarian, what about you? What do you think?
So I have a couple running backs that I would look at. The first, is Clayton's best friend. We've talked about him before, the former Bronco Devontae Booker. I think each and every week, Devontae Booker has showed me a little bit of different things. This past weekend, he had 6 carries for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns, good for 16 fantasy points. The following week, he had 6 carries for 63 yards and a touchdown, and he's averaging an insane 6.2 yards per carry. So he's a big focal point of the Raiders offense and what they want to do. They want to run the football. They want to be physical. And he spells Josh Jacobs, and he's getting proper touches toward the goal line, and he's been scoring. He's been doing the most with his opportunities. And the Raiders, not only that, they just lost Jalen Richard, their number 3 running back, to a chest injury. So Devontae Booker is going to get a lot of their carries and burn. The other running back I will look at is the Miami Dolphins running backs, Salman Ahmad. I think that's how you say his name. But Salman Ahmad, he's coming off of a game where he had 22 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown. And the following week, he had 8 carries for 62 yards. So he's really kind of making a name for himself out there in Dolphin land. And he's been one of Tua's, best weapons out of the backfield for him. As far as and the Dolphins too, that they've been a team that's been looking for a featured back. They just cut Jordan Howard. So and Myles Gaskins has been hurt. Matthew Breida's been hurt. So there's a kid in Ahmad that he was on the field 85% of the time for the Dolphins. So that's a lot of volume. 85% of so he saw 85% of the play. So he should be a focal point in the Dolphins offense moving forward. So he's a guy I would definitely pick up in all formats.
Speaking of the Dolphins, like you mentioned, Tua is 3-0. People were saying he was going to be washed up. He wasn't going to be good, but they should have started him earlier. I just feel bad for Fitzpatrick. Okay. We're going to move on to the last segment, which is your sit and starts of the week. So who are your must starts and who do we have to bench this week, Clayton?
So I'm going to start J.D. McKissick. I've been really running back since this episode, haven't I? But J.D. McKissick, the running back from the Washington football team. Again, we can't say the R word that ends with Edskins. Washington football team. Alex Smith is back. What an incredible story he's been, but he's not taking shots down the field. So back to that question that was asked, Ridley or McLaurin, well, McLaurin's creating yards after the catch. He's actually not getting air yards. So that's risky if you're starting him and considering that. Whereas J.D. McKissick is getting dump-offs and screens and Texas routes out of the backfield. We know Alex Smith loves to check it down, right? That's always been the knock on him as a starter. So J.D. McKissick is having a super high floor based on receiving value. And for some reason, Antonio Gibson's not getting a ton of volume carrying the ball. So J.D. McKissick's also getting some goal line work too. Massive floor. He's a very safe start for me. I would bench Duke Johnson from the Houston Texans. We haven't seen him able to do anything to separate himself away from the job. Even when David Johnson was the starter there in Houston, we didn't see David Johnson, who we know could be a star player in this league, get a whole lot done behind that offensive line. Duke Johnson averages a little under 3 yards a carry. That's pretty pitiful. Is it all his fault? No, but it's not enough that makes you jump up and down and feel super safe starting him. So I'm benching him. And a surprise bench for a wide receiver is Robert Woods. He's trending down. Josh Reynolds and Cooper Kupp are trending up. Me and Tarian talk about it. It seems like every other week. For some reason, man, Sean McVay just circles the guy's name every week. It says F this guy in particular this week. And 2 weeks in a row, it's been Robert Woods. So that's enough to make you weary of starting him.
Okay, and Tarian, what about you?
Yeah, so for me, my start of the week is I don't want to be broad because I'm going to sound very, very broad in saying this, but tomorrow's Thursday Night Football really intrigues me because if you remember the last game between the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday Night Football, we seen record-breaking performance from Tyler Lockett, 200 yards receiving. We seen Christian Kirk score 2 touchdowns. And on a short week on Thursday Night Football, when, Thursday Night Football, we've seen, a lack of defense a lot of the time. I think it's going to be a same affair with the Seattle Seahawks and Arizona Cardinals tomorrow. So if you have one of those players available, I like Kyler Murray, I like Russell Wilson, I like Christian Kirk, I like Tyler Lockett. I kind of sound like Oprah. You get a car and you get a car, but I like all of those guys. I like DK Metcalf. I like all these guys. There's not a whole lot of defense being played by either team. We've seen how the Cardinals won on Sunday's fashion by Hail Mary. scoring a lot of points, so I think there's going to be a lot of points scored tomorrow, and there's a lot of opportunity. Chase Edmonds is another guy I'd look at. And it was just reported that the Saints, the Seahawks running back isn't going to be playing, Carson. So I would look at DJ Dallas, So there's a lot of guys in that game that I would just circle and start, because there's not going to be a lot of defense being played, especially on a short week. My bench, and as far as my bench is concerned, I look at Tampa Bay's running back situation, Ronald Jones, and I know like a lot of people are going to stop me and say, well, Ronald Jones had a career game, 23 carries for 192 yards. Well, a lot of those yards came on that one big 98-yard run, so that's one thing, and that's why I would bench him. Not only that, but another thing of the matter is too, right, is the simple fact that Tampa Bay, the way that they allocate, the running back position is really weird. Like 1 week, Leonard Fournette gets more carries. The next week, Ronald Jones gets more carries. The next week, they're going to pass the ball to Antonio Brown. The next week, they're throwing it to Mike Evans. So there's really no balance there. And not only that, you do play the Rams with Aaron Donald. And you think Aaron Donald's going to allow a 98-yard run, So I don't know. Like I wouldn't look at Ronald Jones' his game on Sunday and be like, this is a guy I must start, right? So he's a guy that I would just look at and be cautious about. So my starts are anybody that you can get your hands on in the Seahawks-Cardinals game, and my bench is Ronald Jones.
All right. So we're going to end the show, but I'm going to ask you guys one quick question, not really fantasy related, but who do you think is going to win MVP? Do you think Russell Wilson is still, in the running? I feel like it was more, everyone was saying Russ is going to get it definitely, but now people are kind of switching. Okay, maybe Patrick Mahomes, maybe Kyler Murray. Quickly, what do you guys think?
Tarian, you go ahead first.
Yeah, okay. So I was really thinking about Russell Wilson, and I think Russell Wilson has done everything possible that you could do to win the MVP, right? But then all of a sudden, his team has kind of started trending downwards a little bit. Right. I'm going to tell you a guy that I'm very intrigued by right now, and it's not even a quarterback. It's Alvin Kamara. Clayton said it earlier. Like, if Alvin Kamara burst on the scene with Drew Brees being out and they continue to stream upward and win, I wouldn't be shocked if, we get one of our first running back MVPs, because I know running back is a position that gets really undervalued, but he's been seeing a lot of 8-man fronts, a lot of 9-man fronts, and he's really been doing everything. He's been catching the ball out of the backfield. He's been running, and the Saints are arguably the best team in the NFC, right? So he's a guy that I would kind of look at, as far as being a favorite, but it being a quarterback-driven league, you got to kind of look at Mahomes and think about Mahomes, and you kind of, because he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. That's really what's been costing Russell Wilson lately is interceptions, right? Kyler Murray, he's a good candidate, but, I think it's going to be amongst those three. I think that's going to be, right now, those are the big three quarterbacks.
All right. And then Clayton, what about you?
I'm still going to go with Russ. I think the table's set for Russ to write his MVP story, write the script right here. I mean, okay, he escalates them up, right? Now it's like a roller coaster. The world's crashing. Oh, no. Oh, it's fine. If he gets back on the insane pace he was at the beginning of the year, everybody knows how bad the defense is. Everybody knows how bad the supporting cast is around him, right? I mean, yeah, he's got good wide receivers, but now he's playing without running backs and offensive linemen. It's a disaster. If he manages to drag them and win the division, which is still very much in play based on this Thursday night's game, yeah, absolutely, because that's going to be factored in. Meanwhile, Kyler Murray and Josh Allen, they have their supporting cast, right? We're not really arguing that. So I think Russ is very much on the table. It's just in his hand now whether he finishes the season strong or the turnovers continue.
Right, exactly. I feel the same exact way. So that's it for this week's episode of This Week in Fantasy. Message us on Instagram at East West Football or DM us on Twitter at East West Sports 1 and let us know what you think about our picks, our show, everything. So we want to hear from you guys. So for all the latest updates, don't forget to check out our website, eastwestfootballnetwork.com, and subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. We'll see you guys next week.